All right, so welcome to the Rose Corner YouTube channel. Welcome once more tonight. This evening, we're having our podcast discussion on the topic, the influence of music within Jamaica society. I'm your boy Rose, and we have some guests with us tonight to weigh in on the discussion. Of course, we have our host for tonight's podcast, Swelly K, YouTuber Swelly K. Good night to you, sir. Good night as well to Mr. Robinson, no stranger to the channel. He has been with us on a few occasions. On Conversation Talk, Friday night's Conversation Talk. Good night to you, Mr. Robinson. And with us for the very first time on our discussion here is Ms. Rashida Berrick. Good night to you. So the discussion will surround the influence of music within Jamaica society. It's a interesting topic. It's a broad topic, and I'm sure we'll dissect it as we go along as much as possible. And so for tonight's discussion on this podcast, I hand over to our host for tonight, Swelly K.
All right. So good night, everyone
Good night, good
listening,
night, good night.
and also the guests on our panel. All right. So as Rose said before, the topic would be the influence of music on Jamaican society. All right. Before we continue, usually it's just men here talking. We have a female, but I realize I'm not really hearing her. Or could we get some confirmation that she's listening? Hello, Rasheen, are you there?
Good night. Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
All right. Yeah, don't be afraid to talk or speak, because it's really important to at least have someone else here, because normally just the three of we same one. So, it's good that you joined us, and we do appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule and everything. All right. So to start off the panel, all right. I'm just gonna pose this question one by one. Everybody can answer one by one. All right. So do you believe music has an influence on Jamaican society? Yeah, anybody can answer this one by one.
Well, for me, yes, I was waiting on Ricardo to go ahead, but I don't know
Go
why
ahead,
he's
go
not.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead, Chris, go ahead. Just as I'm
Uh,
about to say, you jump in. Go ahead,
yes,
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 yes.
but absolutely, Swelly, I really do think so. It really does play an integral part, in the whole way of how we as citizens, um, interact with each other. Uh, our views and perspectives sometimes comes off on the music that individual listen to. So I do believe that it plays an important role for sure.
All right, I'm very curious about your answer. All right, so what examples have you seen in terms of how it affects our interactions? Because I realize a key part of what you said was that it affects our interactions and views and things. What are some examples, or what have you observed of how does it affect Jamaicans' interactions with each other and views?
Well, I'm going to do a contrast example to that, Sweleke. For example, you look at the what we know as reggae, right? Especially parents days growing up, the reggae with I'm not sure if you know the Wailers and that started up, that group that started up with Buddy Wailer and Bob Marley and the others. Um, that
If I'm
that
going
that
to be
music
honest, though,
that music was not to cut it off, sorry.
oh,
That
go ahead,
music
sir.
though was in a time where things and time was different than now. Contrast that in comparison to the nowadays music that peers like our peers are listening to, which is the dancehall music that dominates the circle, right? So if you look at it, reggae music is it's sort of like a camaraderie that brings people together in melody and sounds, so to speak. The dancehall music, based on what I see, the music that echoes in society is more of, you know, bad man this and gun this and bad that, and so people portray themselves as thugs and galleys, and so there is a difference, in how people, even how people speak with each other. That music has over time had an influence on, and back then the reggae, it was more of um it to me, looking back at it, it was more sort of like, the language and the way how people address each other was different. You didn't hear much of the slangs that we know here in today's society, because of music that brings those slangs into the mainstream, for example. So there is a difference between interaction and communication, in my belief. Right.
All right. So just to give you a few points, I understand what you're saying, and I do agree with most of what you said. But in terms of, I'm not sure if you said something about like maybe some of our parents, but I was gonna reiterate in regards to like probably the generation before us. The generation before us was I would say the originators of dancehall, and they listened to dancehall, because dancehall is not a 21st century genre right now. In fact, dancehall was actually started in the late 80s. You know that, right? It's not dancehall is well, compared to other genres, it might not be as old, but it's not necessarily a young thing. It has been around since the 80s, right? So around those times is when I would call the previous generation. So, and dancehall to me, it has always been a raw genre. It has always brought about that rawness that you talk about. So what you're seeing now is not necessarily anything new, if you get what I'm saying. I mean, because all Shabba ranks and those people, right? Yeah, maybe you're not, maybe you're not, but we might not be old enough to necessarily be around that time. But he was a very influential dancehall artist. In fact, he was very international, if you get what I mean. He was internationally recognized worldwide, and most of what he was singing was what I guess some people would consider dirty music. But just to reiterate, like dancehall is not necessarily like it's not a new thing. I do agree with you. It does influence things, and it does, we do see how it changes how young people especially interact. But when dancehall was around, the young people of back then, you could have said was have a similar effect. And just to give you a funny observation, that's I'm telling, history is a very interesting thing. Do you know that at one point when reggae and Rastafarianism was new, do you know that people were fighting against it back then as well? Even though now we see it as a positive influence. Were you aware of that?
Right.
So I don't necessarily want to come here for bash like any genre or bash the culture,
that was not my intention. And you asked me to give an example or explain further. So to explain it further in my understanding, or I see that, just gave a contrast example of how the communication was back then with folks, and all the style and languages now due to the influence of music. Right.
All right. So Ricardo, what's your take on this? Do you believe that music has an influence on Jamaican society?
To some extent, it does. Because we cannot do without music. Despite a large percentage of Jamaicans love music, so it does influence Jamaicans on a whole, despite the other percentage that falls in a minority that doesn't have any interest in music overall, may not have much to say, but at some point in their life, they would have enjoyed some form of music, probably at their weddings, kids' party, or something like that. But overall, music have a lot of influence on Jamaican society. And when you look at the landscape, regardless of which genre of music, it does have a big impact. Whether souls, reggae, you name it, it does have an impact, because at a certain point in our life, we need some souls music to settle the brain a lot, so we can able to focus and concentrate. And when I was looking on this topic, I did my research, and after putting the biblical context of it in
Yes,
play,
yeah, man. Go ahead because
and 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 for sure that music was always a part of human life. I mean, through the Psalms 105, and through Chronicles, and Exodus 16 and 15 and 14, it speaks a lot about music, especially most of us are used to David, for example, with Jonathan. I know they play a lot of music with the harp. So music has always been with us. I mean, the influence, it all depends on how person perceive the music to be, or what they want out of the music, but it has a big impact and an influence on Jamaican society. Yes, so that's my few cents on the influence of music. So okay.
Yeah, very well said.
Yes, yes,
Very well
yes.
said, Reverend.
Yeah, yeah.
The lovely Miss Berrick, or Rashina, however you'd prefer me to refer you to by. What would you say?
Rashina
Does
is fine.
all
Oh,
right. So what would you all right, so do you agree with the sentiment that music does have an impact on Jamaican society?
I do, so I will agree with Ricardo. It is half and half. For me, I'm going to maybe stray a little bit, but for me, a lot of things influence individuals, especially in Jamaica. So music plays a very important role in terms of influencing others. Now, I spend a lot of my days in the classroom. So um, what I realize is the boys, especially females, maybe at 30%, is that the boys, there's a song that I don't know this name of the song, but there's a song, guard up with the ring of that
bad
sort.
boy tune.
I realize now is that a lot of the boys, what they do, they start wearing the ring. Oh, Miss McGaddo, you know, Miss McGaddo. What you got up for? What that mean? Do you know what the man mean? No, but they are wearing the ring. So, an example of the song influencing them. While I realize that those who might not listen to music, they not understand what's happening around them. They might be influenced by the society. Just that someone have learned, what we have seen is that if somebody tell you about your mother, you have to kill them. So that is why I said that a lot of things influence individuals, but music plays an important role. So yeah. So for me, music is half. So I'll give it maybe 90%, and then the other 10% will be from what they have experienced in their environment or from the homes.
All right. I
That's
do
it for
appreciate.
me.
All right. So yeah, I do appreciate that very interesting perspective that you brought us, because that actually brings up a topic that has been on my mind, and I think it's been on a lot of people's mind recently. It's even on TVJ News, where we are seeing where a number of those young schoolmen are wearing these guard rings. And unfortunately, there was an incident where one of them killed another one over said guard ring. So I'm actually very intrigued that we actually have somebody in the classroom here who has first-hand experience. So I was of the view that it was just maybe a unique experience down at the high school at William Nib. But based on what you're telling me, Rashina, this is now a phenomenon in the music. So there is a song called Get Up, and the young men are taking the song very seriously, and it has introduced a new trend of them wearing gatherings. Now, I'm very interested in that topic. I'm very interested on that topic. Um, this also ties into what I most of you said, and I do agree with you. Like, music does have a great influence. If I'm going to have my view on it, music does have a great influence on Jamaican society, and it always does. And this is a very prime current example of that right now, because I was not even aware there was a song going around called the Get Up, encouraging or, introducing this whole gathering concept. And that's the reason why there is such a sudden influx of young men with gatherings. And unfortunately, it has also brought about some form of violence, because unfortunately somebody had lost their life over said gathering. And we would agree that it has such a big impact. All right, so what would be my next question to you all one by one now? All right. So you do agree that music has an impact on society, and we did have a very interesting perspective in regards to the gatherings. What I find interesting is that, so my time at high school was during the whole Gully Gaza, that whole Gully Gaza debacle in the dance. So that was the thing when I was going to high school at the time, and that was actually also a big issue.
I wonder which side you were on.
All right. I was one of the few young men whenever did really that influenced by the music that much.
Yes,
but I was really an exception to the norm. So you can't really use me because I wasn't the norm. Because if I was to tell you what was going on back then, most of those young men were well into well into this
and I am far worse in that category. I would not know either, believe you me.
Yeah, and it was the same thing back then, actually, where a lot of violence was actually coming about, not necessarily in the schools, because while it did have a few huffs and scuffles, the real violence was actually in the wider society, in terms of the grown adults who should have been knowing better, who were actually fighting and killing each other over said Gaza Gully the bactical back then. It even reached a point where the government actually had to tell the men to stop singing those songs and come and apologize, come and make up on live television to show the peace. And at the time when I was young, I thought it was a bit ridiculous, because I was like, why would the government be calling the artists to make up on live television? But it's like, with little more wisdom now, I actually understand why they did that, because the music does have a great influence on people, and it does make people get up and decide to do things. Prime example, that gathering thing and the same Gully Gaza thing. Like, people were actually killing each other over said issues, over songs. So we have to really point about that. But what I would say would be my next question to y'all. All right. Do you think music can also have positive effects? Because I realize that most of what I talk about, we're talking about the negative effects. Do you think music can also have positive effects? Who wishes to answer first?
Chris, you want to take the lead as usual? Then we go in the order.
And you go ahead. I'll come right after you.
Yeah. There's a lot of positive things out of the music. One is a way of expression for many persons, whether young or old, and it's an expression of oneself, to utilize and to show your true talent. That you're gifted, you get a talent where you can use a voice to sing. So the music is positive in that aspect, where you utilize the talent to sing positive songs, whether positive or negative songs, but the underlying word would be your talent, to utilize your talent through music. The second positive thing of it is that it creates a sense of love within oneself. So you doing a song, you find that love within yourself, because you're doing something that you truly love, and nobody can take it away from you, to the extent where you doing something that you love will influence others, to let them know that, here what, if you have a talent and you have a good voice, you can use it for the benefits of your community your school, and the wider country. So persons are able to know about you as an individual and what you bring to the table in terms of to marketing or promoting oneself and the country or the community. And third, the next positive impact on it is that through education, that the music that you're putting out, the content and the context of how you put out the music can influence, and we see the positive because the message of the music is strictly educational, whether by through religion or school curriculum activity, or probably strictly poetry in terms of using the art and the the whole drama, taking the words from like Shakespeare, or using those Solomon words of wisdom into to create that type of poetry, and so forth, and personally able to understand that here, there's a lot of positive things from it. Perfect example like Louise Bennett. I mean, to how she create music and songs through storytelling. It may not be, she may not be like a big musician, but when she tell her stories in songs, and so by having the children in front of her while she's telling these stories and the culture aspects, you see how catching it is, and
Right.
the larger impact it can. And I can go on and on and on, but because of time and everything, I want others to weigh in on it. Yes.
Right. Right. All right. Well, for me, it it does have its positive, swell in terms of, music, regardless of the content, it brings people together. Yeah. People just want to hear that a show is keeping. Everybody wanting to get their tickets, and they go in there. If it's jazz and blues, if it is some fest, if it is funny in the sun, whatever it is, music brings people together. So that's the positive in it. I believe it brings people together. Uh, if we're focusing on local Jamaican music itself, Jamaican music, it put Jamaica in the spotlight, because now everybody within the Caribbean and within the diaspora wants to come and experience the culture and hear the artists on stage singing. So it brings a certain spotlight, to Jamaica. And that spotlight also includes tourism. It helps music also contribute to the positive um, things that we see happening in tourism, because then tourists overseas want to come and visit and listen to the music as well and see our artists in person. So I believe that those would be some of the positive aspect of local music.
All right, very well said, Rose. Rashina, what would be your view? Do you believe that music can have positive effects as well?
Yes, I believe that it can.
All
Are
right,
you
so
hearing me?
yes, we're hearing you. So what would be your view, or take on that, or examples?
1 minute.
For, oh, so I should continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so for me, music is something that everybody enjoys. It's like an excitement for everybody. I've seen persons listen to music just to relax. So music can play that role, allowing somebody to relax. I've seen where it increases the self-esteem of younger individuals or even older. There is a song that Vibes Cartel sings. It's a long one. Something about teenage pregnancy. I don't remember the title, but that
Right,
one
right.
I have seen where the younger generation back then when they used to listen that song, they were aware now of what is teenage pregnancy, the consequences of becoming pregnant in school and all of that. So I'm sure they had learned something positive from that music. Romain Virgo sang a song, I don't remember, last don't remember what the song was released, but it was something about abusing the children or dirty man, something and another. Now, in terms of being positive about that, for example, let's say you are one of the person.
Repeat,
Somebody gonna
repeat,
answer?
repeat, repeat that again, Swelly.
All right. So if dancehall was never created, or if it was a genre that sang more positive music like reggae, do you think that you'd have a huge impact on crime?
I would not say a huge impact on crime. I think, crime, mankind is mankind, and men will be men, and, men can be very vicious and, cold. Um, I would not say a huge impact on crime, but the, the contribution that it makes negatively would not be so much. But of course there will still be crime, in our communities. There still be, murders and so forth, because there are other things other than as Rashina said earlier, there are other things that influence people as well. So there are other elements that will influence people to go out and commit, crimes. But regarding to your question, though, if it wasn't, if it um, output more positive, or if it didn't really exist, or if it would have played if that would have played a huge impact on crime, I don't believe so. I think crime would still be a problem that all of us, would have to deal with. But if it was more, this is my opinion though, if what is coming out from the dancer was more positive and less than what we are seeing today, the number of violence, so especially in schools, would not be so much. Just use the school system for example. Would not be so much, and you know, uh, and build for more positivity into it. I think it would draw people closer together, in my opinion. But crime would be something that we still have to deal with for sure. Dancehall or no dancehall.
All right, Ricardo, I think you want to talk next based on what I'm seeing. What's your rebuttal to that question?
Let me tell you, whether the dancehall was in or not, mankind art is just desperately wicked. and, and crime would be the same as it is today. And I love to use a reference from the scripture. Perfect example, 2 Samuel's chapter 1, where we all can safely say that we read the story about Jonathan and David once again. And we know that David and Jonathan love music. And in the midst of it, with both of them, close friends, playing soft music for Jonathan's father. And in the midst of it, guess what Saul did? Take up a spear and throw it directly at David. No, we don't want a clear example than that. No, it's okay to say that whether that dancehall was in or not, crime and violence still would exist, because the art of men is so desperately wicked that the least little thing turns into violence with how we socialize and do things. So I mean, as positive as the music is, it does not help some persons. Some person just becomes this big monster, and I say, hell with music. Tom, know me something. Just I gotta deal with Tom. So it have both negative and positive on it, but I think violence and crime would still exist same way without the music or not. And that's why I alluded to the reference with Saul and Jonathan and David as an example from the Bible, as a reference to show that the music was so good by David and Jonathan. Saul didn't love it. Saul just hate the man, King David, and just want to take him out. So that's why I look at 2 cents on it.
Very well said, Reverend, and I do appreciate the scripture and also the different perspective to this, because we even going back to the ancient days, as you just said, man have certain things in their heart. Now, Rashina, what would be your view on what I asked? If dancehall didn't exist, or if it was using more positive music, would it have made a huge impact on Jamaica's crime?
No, my answer, no, it would not. I think the crime and violence would have been the same exact thing. All right, so since we're going Bible tonight, I'm going to pull from Cain and Abel.
Yes.
Right. So if you look at the story, well, if you know the story, remember the story of Cain and Abel. Was it Cain killed Abel? Right. So the whole thing started because of a little jealousy. God preferred this man give than my give. And if you should just glimpse in little on the crime and violence, majority or every single one triggers from a little jealousy, a little bad mind, and all of that. So it's not the music that is influencing a man. So listen, you need to kill that man tomorrow. No, most of it is just coming from don't want to see that person be anything. You want to have everything for yourself, and other elements. But so whether or not the music was clean or negative or positive, the crime and violence will not be different.
All right, that's an interesting view. So I guess everyone is actually in agreement, because I'm actually in agreement as well. However, I have some minor differences. All right, so I'm a musician myself, and I've dabbled in the dancehall realm. I even released a dancehall track recently, but they're just telling you based on my experience. All right, so I do agree that if dancehall wasn't here, or if it was more positive, I think the crime situation, there wouldn't be really a big difference. Yes, there would be some change. There wouldn't be as much impressionable youths being drawn into certain things, but a lot of Jamaica problem is innate. It's not necessarily, as you guys say, the music really. Is really the mindset, and it's just really the mindset and the psychology of the culture overall. Because here's the thing, well, people don't like to accept, music is a reflection of the culture it's coming from, as there's a thing called marketing. I'm sure everybody has done maybe a one marketing or business course probably in them past at school or whatever. There's our economics where it's supply and demand. Now, there are a lot of positive artists in Jamaica, and we do have a positive genre, reggae, that is here, but it's not necessarily as flourished here. Why? Because the demand is not high for it. The people innately want to listen to dancehall music, because here's the thing, music is like any other product, you have some countries that really just don't like dancehall or listen to dancehall because that's just not the product they want. You can't stop a product from come, but it's people try. So them want the product, yes or no. That's economics or basic marketing. So it's a reflection of the culture, and that's what the people want to hear. Funny enough, if you probably talk to a lot of the artists, they will tell it themselves. Well, I'm just making the sound people want to hear and listen. That's reality. It's a psychology. So as you guys say, I also believe that, like, if it wasn't here, it would almost still be the crime problem would almost, because we can't even use other countries in comparison, because I do a lot of research on crime on other countries. You have other countries that have high crime rates and don't have dancehall played it. When Christopher Columbus come here and get rid of the Indians, there was no dancehall. There was no dancehall. When them take our ancestor them and do all kind of, and this was white people now, because this is not even black people now, this was white people. They do all manner of wickedness and treachery to us, and there was no dancehall music playing back then. So you get what I'm saying? So yeah, that would be my 2 cents on it. So I would just leave the floor open because I really don't really have any more questions or anything. So if you guys want to say something or discuss something or ask something, you can go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, Swelike, you have really touched on areas regarding the topic tonight, and I really want to, thank you for that. Appreciate it as you are our host for tonight's podcast. Um, the influence of music within Jamaican society. It is indeed um, a lot, to say on it. Um, I have a little interaction for us to do. Uh, a little interaction with about 3 questions. Right. Uh, I had some questions here other than the interaction that pretty much Swelly K has basically uh, touched on. So I will leave those. Right. So let me get straight to the interaction, and then after the interaction, if there's anything else that anyone want to share or say on the topic, you're more than welcome to do so. So I'm throwing it out, and then each of us, will take turns. First, name at least 6 musicians you listen to growing up. Who wants to go first?
Ah,
Yes, ladies before gentlemen. Sure, Rashina, go
Yeah.
ahead.
All right. What you mean, now or when I was younger?
Yeah, right. When you was growing up,
Yeah.
you were younger. Younger growing up.
Elephant Man.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if the others heard you, but I didn't hear what you said.
Wayne Marshall.
Rashina?
Everybody hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
All right. So I said Elephant Man,
That's one.
Wayne Marshall.
That's 2.
Man, is it? Weddy Weddy.
Okay, that's
No,
3.
no.
We need 3
No, it's not
more.
Weddy Weddy. Beanie Man.
That's 4.
Uh,
2 more.
Tony Braxton. Oh, Jamaica. Oh.
No, it can be anybody, man, local or international.
Oh, Tony Braxton. Alicia Keys.
Okay.
And Ashanti. So I think that is.
I think that is 7. But thank you, Rashida. I appreciate it. Who's next?
well,
Name at least 6 musicians you listen to growing up. Who wants to go next?
So
Well,
change the
Chris.
5 to 6.
Yes, Ricardo, take the floor. The floor is yours.
So I think I mentioned it the other night with you guys, with Chris and Rashina. Bounty Killer, Ed's the List.
That's
you know,
one.
yes, that song that he did about book for pressure book, if little and foolish. Trust me, that song has stuck with me, and I think that is one of the best educational song from a dancehall artist that really stood out. Every time school is going to open back in September, you always hear the radio station playing that book. Just to remind the children what is key here. So Bounty Killer is one. I didn't know him namesake rival Beanie Man as usual.
That's 2.
And then yes, Bersa Man, because
That's
my
3.
father listened a lot of Bersa Man. And Elephant Man, because I
That's
don't know the
4.
dancing thing, you have to move the legs sometimes.
All right, I
And
hear you.
and this artist, I mentioned him the other night to you.
Who that again?
He's an international artist now, Jamaican Rasta. I read it. He's an artist from in the 80s.
think it's something about Reed, you know. I think it's something
Judah
about
Reed, yes,
Judah
Reed,
Reed.
yeah,
Right.
Judah Reed. I'm going to save the best for last, you know, the best for
Yeah,
last.
go ahead.
Michael Jackson, man.
Ah!
Who can take his place? Who can
That's
take
a good.
Michael Jackson's place?
You took one off my list, but you took two off my list, you know.
Oh my God, Michael Jackson, I'm crying now, man. So Michael Jackson after night, you know. Yes, yes.
So say you can do the moonwalk, Ricardo.
Of course. Oh, you could ask that.
Oh goodness, that's a good one. Thank you, Ricardo.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, yes.
I'm going to share mine and then I'll allow Swelly to share his. So for me, number one is of course Bob Marley. Bob Marley is a renowned reggae icon, not just in Jamaica, but in the world. But I listened to a lot of Bob Marley because at the time I lived with my grandfather, who was then alive, that listened to a lot of Bob Marley. So I grew up listening to a lot of Bob Marley. So that's one. Then number two is of course Gregory Isaac, man. Gregory Isaac, you know. Then we have Berrick Hammond for sure. No, the fourth. So right. So Bob Marley, Berrick Hammond, Gregory Isaac. The fourth would be Michael Jackson. Five would be Usher, international artist Usher, and six for me would be Whitney Houston. Yes. Swelly K, how about you?
All right, you guys hear me?
Yes, man, hearing you.
All right. So if I'm going to be choosing 6 artists that I listened growing up, all right. So I would say one of my earliest memories of music is probably through Beanie Man, because at the time when growing up, he was still very popular at the time, and I liked a lot of his songs. Going more into teenage years, I was a listener of both Vybz Kartel and Movado.
So
I wasn't
true.
really I wasn't really necessarily the biggest fans or listeners, because I said I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of dancehall back then. But
so you were like an occasional fan.
Exactly. I was an occasional listener, really. So I didn't really totally throw it away. There were still songs here and there that I liked with those artists. And so after those 3, it's more international. So I listened a rapper known as Wiz Khalifa. He was one of my favorite rappers back then. I listened to Drake. And I guess my last would be a very surprise one, would be like Katy Perry, because during those times she was very popular as well. Wiz Khalifa. Even though her songs are, I guess some people would call a little bit girly. I still think she's a very good singer.
Yeah, she is.
And,
she is. And I have to confess, if I have to confess, if I had to pick a 7th, Katy Perry would be my number 7. So
that's interesting.
Yes, I said to her as well. The second question is, which musician do you admire the most? Going first with Ricardo.
There's several musicians that I admire.
But if you had to pick one,
it have to be Michael Jackson. Fly high, fly low. Trust me, anybody who can make 100,000 people faint one time, got to be Michael Jackson. Just vibe say, and everybody just drop. No, Michael Jackson. Trust me, from the baby on the breast up to grandma in bed, Michael Jackson, man, all the way. Okay. So Michael Jackson, yes.
All right, thank you for that. Swelly, how about you?
This is a very tough choice for me, because I like a lot of musicians and I admire a lot of them. But if I would choose one that I admire most, it's actually one I didn't really listen that much. Because this is a good surprise. I admire Bob Marley the most as a musician, but it's
Oh,
funny because you
wow,
realize that
wow,
I didn't
wow.
really listen to him.
Yes,
I,
yes.
but here's the thing: admiring somebody
It's
necessarily
different.
means,
Mhm,
yeah, because I'm going to be honest, I'm not really a big listener of Bob Marley. I
mhm.
like
Say
a
it
few of
again,
his.
love. Say it again. 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 Say it
I'm not
again.
really a,
What am I hearing? Say it again.
I'm not really a big listener of Bob Marley, really.
Oh
Thank,
my
thank,
God.
thank, thank God I'm not alone in this world. Hallelujah.
Oh, you
Thank
as well.
you.
Thank God.
So,
You think I'm
so,
me
so,
alone
so,
too?
so why you think me tell her to say it again? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, you know.
No, yes.
He has
We
good
love his
songs, you
song.
know.
Yeah, yes. Can we give
But
credit where credit due? But I'm
but
not
me
a
not
big
gonna be
fan. Yeah.
exactly because I'm gonna be honest. I think there's a lot of Jamaicans that don't really listen to him that much because I'm gonna be honest. All right, this is gonna be
Yeah.
very controversial. Bob Marley was actually bigger internationally than it was locally. He
Yes,
never
Yeah,
really
that
went
is
without
global.
a,
true.
yeah,
Without a doubt.
definitely. And then the truth is, when I was growing up, there wasn't any Bob Marley playing in our house. Michael Jackson
Me
take
either.
the space, and the Temptation by my grandfather take the space, the old Temptation, and James Brown, because through my grandfather traveled to America and Canada a lot.
Right.
So the international music, the Temptations play a lot in the house. So Bob Marley did, even from my father and uncle, they didn't play the Bob Marley. So I'm not saying I don't love his songs, but I'm not a big fan of Bob Marley. And it's strange when time a Jamaican say that they're not a fan or don't really
Right.
into Bob Marley. They would say, "You sure you're
But it,
Jamaican?"
but the funny thing is, most of
Yes,
what I ask you probably don't really listen to him that much either. But it's just
that is
because,
it.
all right, I don't want to bash our musician because he has done a lot for Jamaica and he is an icon. But
Mhm.
I
Yes,
think a lot of people, all right, it come like being in America. You know, like how America always support them troops. Like them I say, if you don't support the troops, you're not an
Right.
American. Like it's
yes,
Right.
always
yes,
like the same thing. It's like
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
you're
yes.
gonna
we
say
don't
you're not
support
listening
Bob
to Bob
Marley,
Marley.
right? Something
You're not
wrong
such
with
a
you.
big
Right.
Yeah,
but a lot of people don't really listen to him or really, don't really they are really play him either. And as I say, he was really bigger international than he was
yeah.
here. But
Jamaican must give thanks to IRFM for play Bob Marley every day by 8 o'clock on the radio.
Yeah, so you're troubling there, because you're troubling, you're
But
trouble.
it's true.
But I hear you. But because of time, we have to be moving forward.
Yes,
Rashida, how
all right,
Rashina.
yeah,
about
but
Yes,
you?
sorry.
yes,
Yeah, no, but hold on, I never explain why I admire him, because
Okay,
yes,
go
yes.
I
ahead.
get
Go
up on
ahead.
that.
Good.
But we just try to keep it balanced. But
Uh-huh.
I'm
Yes.
really tell you why I admire Bob Marley though. All right, here's why I admire Bob Marley. I admire the fact. I admire the journey he took to get where he at. That's why I really
Right.
Yes.
admire him. Because here, what he was
Yes.
really a poor Rasta
Yeah, from
Jamaican
Trenchtown.
country
Yeah.
boy from
Mhm,
Trenchtown, and
mhm.
to reach a point where
9 Mile to be exact
there's
in
a
St. Ann.
Yes, in a tenement yard.
It's Chumino
Yeah.
said Chumino says a podcast, so we have to leave out the original birthplace now. 9 Mile
Right.
in St. Ann.
Right, he grew up in a tenement yard. And a
Yeah.
fun fact, side note here. You know that him
Yeah.
and Portia since Miller grew up in the same tenement yard in Trenchtown?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But continue, Kevin.
yeah, I admire the journey, because he came from such a relatable Jamaican experience. Because this is a
Yeah.
very
Yes.
relatable Jamaican experience that
Mhm.
he came through, and he managed to break out internationally, in a
Yes.
craft where people that discourage him. Because at the time, Rastafarianism and reggae music actually was not really big in Jamaica. That's why I tell
Right.
us that Jamaica like to cover up stuff, but I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you that
If you
fact.
if,
At
if,
that
if, you,
time,
if you dig deep, you will see, right? Mhm.
yeah, Rastafari was not supported by Jamaica. In fact, it was something with them they really have fight against. And the
Yes.
member fact say him got through so much of that, him going at something whenever they really accepted, and he managed to be worldwide. He managed to do so
Yes.
much. Because he done all of that when he was young, He was not an old man, He was
No,
doing all
man.
of that while he was
No,
still a
right.
young man,
Yeah, because he died
And the
at
mere
what,
fact,
36? Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, and the mere fact say him go out so early and the man dead for
Mhm.
years and him still have such a big impact
Yeah, wow, I tell
influence
you.
worldwide. Him still up on
Mhm.
top 5 list as a dead man. People all joke about it
Yes.
too. Him still a
Yes.
beat artist alive in a terms of sales.
Yes.
sales.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
mere fact say him legacy is so great that him mean kids a benefit Fine. Because that's
Right.
one thing when I like for this, what Jamaicans are black people on a whole, like, you know, black people have this thing where them feel like, say, oh, your picnic need to start over. I know if you have no business, I know if you have no legacy when other race of people are doing it. They always tell you, say, you need to start over, and you need to start the struggle, and you need to start poor. You know, if you have no legacy, no wealth of a build on the line, everybody needs to start over and poor, and that's some I admire. That's the reason I admire. But due to the sake of time, let's go. Let's move on.
Right. Rashina, very quickly, name one musician that you admire the most. Very quickly. Huh? I'm sorry, my dear, you're breaking up. What you said?
Jennifer Hudson.
Oh, Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rashina, did give her 6?
Yeah, man, she gave her 6.
You
wasn't listening, Ricardo?
I was just trying to remember.
Yeah, she never did say Jennifer or say Hudson, but as you said, she admired that. I mean, say she in her top 6.
Okay.
Like me, because Bob Marley never in my 6, but I still admire him the most. But yeah, go ahead, Rashid. Why I admire
Rashina?
Rashid.
Oh, you didn't? I said Jennifer Hudson.
Yes, we heard you, but we are asking why you admire her.
Because she is not only a musician who just sings, but she inspires. So that's what I admire about her.
Fair enough.
All right, thank you. Well, for me, the artist that I admire, well, you know, there are a few, but I have to choose one at this time. Would be Chronics.
The Spanish Town.
Yes, you got all from Spanish Town.
When say Christian about someone, or if you're hungry and I can't buy a shot, I say go. I say son.
When the behind curtain.
Yeah.
Chronics, man, I tell you, he had, you know, why I admire him.
You're the pastors.
Why I admire Chronics, you know, he brings forth a lot of positive energy, and his music are very positive and relatable, you know. And I see where, you know, I saw him as one of those influential reggae artists who were trying to step up the thing from, you know, what Bob Marley has sort of laid the foundation, and seeing those rising reggae artists such as himself. Well, you know, he's kind of mixture on both sides, you know. And then, you know, along with him you have Protege. But Chronix is someone that I really admire within the music space currently, you know, at this time. All right. Yes, and we don't have much time, but Ricardo, I want you to, well, each of us is going to do it because it's an interactive session at this time. I want you to sing a line from one of your artists' songs, current or from the 80s or the 90s. Just sing a line. Just sing a line.
From off of my list.
Yes.
Be there. You know what? I don't want that on Michael Jackson.
So they care about you.
All right, mine have got to be from Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take all this money out, then throw it all away, cause I can't take it when I'm gone. Yeah, that's from one of these songs that I said. Yeah.
Cool. Rashid, how about you?
Oh, for the sweet voice.
Rashid,
why are we doing this?
Just a line from a song.
Just a line.
Yes, very quickly. We have about less than a minute to go.
Do a Keisha Cole line. Send from heaven. Wonderful love.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for that.
And you, sir, you.
I was gonna go with Chronix, but then I said, sure, let me go with Gregory Isaac. Night nurse.
Nerd!
Oh,
Easy!
the alone yard when the sun sets.
Follow! One for the yard! Drum roll!
Yes, but that's how we do it, you know.
Yes,
We have come to the end of our podcast. Any final words? 2 seconds. Any final words? 2 seconds. Ricardo?
I think we should have a part 2, and I loved it, guys. I love it.
All right. Swelly K?
Listen my songs on YouTube, Swelly K YouTube channel, Instagram, also on Spotify. All I wanna do is party every day. Rifle shot, alcohol addiction. Yeah.
Right. We played Chill Vibes earlier. You know, that was good. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Roast Corner. We are doing YouTube. It's a good look. Thank you guys so much for coming on.